5.
Welcome to Green in 5. Today we're talking about be ready to get going. And seriously, don't mock me. I like using fun puns, so get over it. Today we're catching up with Rob for another 5 questions on beehives. Rob, got time for 5 questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. When do you start a beehive?
So if you're starting new, typically you want to start early in the spring. Ideally, you're going to start probably somewhere April, early May. Gives the bees an opportunity to really start building up their comb and be efficient for, when the honey flow really starts to come.
All right, well, that's great. Considering we're about to go into the fall, it gives people plenty of time to research, think about it, and decide if they want to pull the trigger on their own bees. So where do you actually get your bees from?
So you have a couple of different resources that you can use. There are plenty of bee companies that provide bees. If you know a beekeeper locally, that's probably the best source, because in the spring, a lot of times they could actually split the hives and create a colony all on its own with well-established comb and really brood already going. So if you know a beekeeper locally, probably the best way to go. Otherwise, you can get a package or a nucleus colony from many providers throughout the country.
So once you have your bees and you have all your materials to get set up, where do you actually want to place the hive?
So ideally, it really depends. Here in New York, I like to place it in direct sun because with the winter time, it gets so cold, the sun allows the hives to warm up a bit in the winter. If you're in a warmer climate, a shady area is a good choice. Ideally, you want the wind blowing on the back of the hive, not in the front. Not so much in the summer, that doesn't matter, but in the wintertime, you don't want that air to get too cold to chill the bees. Oh, okay, cool. Well, hey, last video you took us through, you talked about the different components of a beehive very briefly. Can you talk about how you set up the hive? Yeah, so essentially the first step is leveling off a couple of cinder blocks. Okay, once you have your cinder blocks level, then you install this bottom board. Bottom board is just the base of the hive. They have a few different kinds. There's one that has a solid bottom, and then there's ones like this that have a screen bottom, which literally has a screen in the bottom that a piece of plastic goes in and acts as the bottom of the hive. The vented bottom boards allow for more ventilation in the summer months, allows the hive to cool down a little bit, and also helps in the winter when you can close it off. So after the bottom board, then you have the 2 deeps. Now this is what you'd really set up in the first year. You have 2 deeps. Each deep has 10 frames. The 10 frames are just going to be set up with plastic comb. The plastic comb is going to look just like this. It's just going to be plastic. Okay, the bees will build out comb on it and eventually fill it with honey. So this is from a honey super. First year, you're really not going to be doing that. You're just going to be setting up the bees so they can sustain the winter. Once they've got these 2 boxes full in the first year, you made year 1. The following year, that's when you're going to start to add. So after you install the bottom board, you've got the 2 deeps. The deeps are basically going to get you through the first year. You're really not going to look to collect honey in year 1. Your goal is really to get both of these hives full of basically all the stages of the bee life, pollen, and honey. Once they're full, they're basically good to go for the whole winter, and your job is to kind of get them through the winter, make sure they have enough resources to survive, and so long as they do, you're good to go and go into the spring and be prepared to collect honey the next season.
And once all of this is set up, the boxes are in place, and the bees are going, what are some of the initial things to look for?
So the initial things that you want to look for are all the signs of life. You want to see eggs, larvae, pupa, and then capped cells. So long as you have those 4 phases of life, that means your queen is doing its job and you have bees being created. The more bees that are created, the more foraging and things like that can occur to help the hive collect honey and build wax and comb and really get the hive started. That's what you want to look for.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, thanks so much again for taking us through today with these questions, and we'll talk to you next time. See you later. Thanks for joining Green in 5, and stay tuned for next time when we ask Rob 5 more questions on how to care for your beehives. Hit like if you enjoyed this video, share with a friend, and follow me for all things green.